I'm Dwayne Brummett. He's Ali Alberigo, and this is the School Owner Talk podcast. Hello again, and welcome to the School Owner Talk podcast. I'm Dwayne Brummett, and Ali, great to be with you today, sir.
Yes, it's great to be with you as well, and always just be talking to my friend from a different place, right? And be able to hang with you for the week.
Exactly, and selfishly, we've talked about this on our podcast before, but just our friendship going through all of these podcasts, we've grown closer as friends. But then,
Yeah.
I don't know, I felt like our intimacy, if you will, grew even more.
Right.
During the pandemic.
Yeah, we were there for each other in regard. It sounds like a love fest right now, but we were there for each other when, it was a very trying time, and it still is. And this is going to segue perfectly into our conversation today. But, we were there to be like, I'm feeling nervous. Who can I talk to? My wife, she'll empathize. I'm sure you could talk to your wife and, but they're not living this lifestyle. Like, it's funny, like I woke up I don't know why, but I woke up in the middle of the night. My brain is very weird, and I'm worried about dojo contracts and summer camp. Like, why does my brain, like at 3 a.m, now I'm wide awake going like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I have to remind myself, I'm like, Ali, you don't have to worry about that now. You could sleep. It's fine. It's not going to not be there when you wake up. And it's really, honestly, nothing to be worrying about. And after finally I'm able to lull myself back into my sleep, because my brain, as owners, we worry, as business owners, we're fearful. So it was always good having you there. I'd be like, Dwayne, I'm freaking out a bit here. Like, what are we going to do? And, back and forth, it was a lot easier to get through it with having you there and other people we chatted with and so on.
And it was quite interesting to, I don't know about you, text you whenever I wanted to text you, or call you when I like, hey, are you available? Yeah. Bounce ideas off and worries and cares. And you know what? I didn't really share a lot of my concerns at that time with my wife. Probably should have, but I didn't want her to have to worry.
Right.
So I took on the burden, but I talked with you and a couple other people, mainly you, but a couple other people. And so with regards to what we're talking about today, it's a great segue. We're not right where we were at in 2008, but the potential of a recession, because that's what our topic is today. The potential of having a recession, because is real.
Right.
And so we need to make sure we as school owners are prepared, and we do everything that we possibly can in order to make sure that our doors remain open, that we don't close them, for good, just because of, the things that are happening in our world right now.
Right. And you know what, though, I forget who I was just mentioning something this chew, or I posted it or said something about the recession, it was the advertisement for our podcast. And I think it was Stephen Oliver. He said, well, we're already in a recession. We're not going into a recession. We're experiencing it right now.
Yeah.
So, and that means, listen, and I'll read the definition, right? It's pretty clear. Like, when you go over a recession's definition, it's a period of temporary economic decline during which trade and industrial activities are reduced, identified by a fall in the GDP, the gross dollar, right? And within, by the way, a recession is considered to be a recession if it's 2 consecutive quarters that the times are down. Right. So that's pretty interesting. And listen, we're definitely in it, and we haven't come out of it. And this is what we spoke about this, during COVID. And when we first came out of COVID, we said, we're going to find the after effects of COVID that are going to, like, not even just being sick with it, long COVID, they call it, right? We're talking about the after effects of the COVID shutdown is going to play out for quite some time.
Well, and not to get into the weeds on where you stand with regards to, the specifics,
right,
and why we're in what we're in. I think it would behoove our listeners to go, okay, we're in it. We have a recession. We have, what is it? Shrinkflation. We have
Right.
inflation and shrinkflation.
Yeah.
We just can't shrink our products and sell
Yeah.
them for the same price. For those of you that don't know what shrinkflation is, I don't know what hole you've been hiding in, but the manufacturers are keeping the price generally the same on some items, but instead of getting 16 ounces, you're getting 14.2 ounces. So if you look
Right.
at the ounces on one box that you got to throw away compared to the new one that you're buying, you might see shrinkflation
Yeah.
along with obviously the other things that are inflated. So I think it would be important for our listeners for us to give them some constructive things on what we need to do in order
Yeah.
to protect ourselves during this time so that we can come out of it at cost neutral, if you will, or maybe even ahead, if that makes
Right.
sense.
It totally does. And I think the martial art industry, a school, is a little bit unique in regards to, because it's very niche, right? So let's say I owned an Orange Fitness and it's $400 a month for personal training. And let's say the economy's booming. By the way, I have felt the boom of the COVID economy, where once people got out of the COVID shutdown, I had massive amounts of signups, parents with 4 kids, 5 kids. And what I'm finding out now that those people have fell off and disappeared because their unemployment ran out. That $600 benefit on top of, like, it was a mom who didn't work, who was now getting of unemployment and the $600 bump. Like, it was literally like winning lotto, the free money every month, $600 to $1,000 in free money. So they had money to blow. So they were signing them up at my school. Like, one parent was like, I didn't understand, always had cash, buy me this uniform, buy me that weapon. And then I didn't realize, that once that unemployment shut down, they had to pull out of my school. So there's a bit of that going on. Some people beat the system and now their unemployment's trying to get the money back. So that's another fear for people. But here's the thing, though. I think that our niche will allow us to have a certain segment of the population that no matter what can afford what we do, right? So we are losing some, but we could gain the other ones that are not affected by this, or that maybe are affected but have prioritized our school as being more important than other things, and they're only doing 1 or 2 activities rather than 4 or 5, and they're going to put us at the top of the food chain.
And that's why it's so important for us as school owners to make sure that we place ourselves as really target market the type of customer that we want and place
Right.
ourselves in that market. So because I know that was one of the reasons, not the only, but one of the reasons why we still survived through 2008 is the market that we were marketing to could still afford us. So I would say if you're not doing that as a school owner, it's going to be important, because if somebody can barely pay what you're charging now, or maybe you've already seen this where they could barely pay what you were charging before, but now they can't. And like Ali said, the money ran out, or they literally, don't have any extra money. It's not to say that they aren't good students, but they may not be your target market. And it's not to say that they're not going to eventually become a great black belt.
Right.
I'm just talking business here.
Right.
In order to stay open so you can serve as many people as you possibly can and make the lifestyle that you would like. So that would be, one of the first things is take a look at, as best you can, take a look at where you think the income level is in your area where you want to be and who you want to market to.
Right.
I don't know about you, Ali. The richest individuals in my community, they don't usually stay very long in the program. The ones that have the money and that can just throw money at everything. I don't get it, but that doesn't happen. Right?
Yeah, I get the phenomenon. It's because they have opportunities. They, if they don't like karate, they could do flute. If they don't like flute, they could do it. They have the economic opportunity to do whatever they want. So they bounce around until they, there's no real urgency to stick with something, right? So that's why. But continue.
So my target market, and I don't know where you stand on this, but my target market is more, upper middle class,
Right.
because they are still money conscious. So, and when it comes to dedicating themselves to things, they have a better idea of what dedication actually means, rather than just throwing money on the problem, or what have you. And then, yes, of course, I have middle class and even some lower middle class
Right.
at our school. So I think that's the first thing, is we want to make sure that we are attracting the individuals that even throughout a an economic downturn, recession, as it
Yeah.
is right now, that we can still ride that through with them.
Yeah, I agree. I also agree that, or think that we need to educate. Like, for example, I had a mom the other day. I can't really afford the tuition anymore, blah, 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 whatever the reason is. I said, hey, I have an idea for you. Have you ever reached out to your parents or grandparents or relatives and see if they would mind helping you a little? I said, I know it's kind of hard to say and ask, but grandma's probably going to buy the next birthday present, Christmas presents. If you gave them this opportunity and said, hey, instead of a present, maybe you could help me with a chunk of tuition or pay for a month or two. Well, she asked her mother, and the mother said, I'll just pay for I didn't know you're struggling. Let me just take that bill off your hand and I'll just pay for it for you. So now the kids stayed in the program. I might have just said, I'm sorry to see you go. What a shame. And not given them any kind of options. And then when I gave her an option it was like an epiphany, like, oh my
Yeah.
God, that's a great idea. And she did it and it worked. So I saved the student. She kept her kid in something that she loved, because she wasn't leaving because she didn't love it. So sometimes giving people those options and educating them on what else they could be doing is another thing as well.
Yep. So I know, and this was something I learned from you, and this has to do with, trying to live below your means,
Right.
if you will. So how can we live below our means in this particular time? One way that we can do it is obviously look at your expenses and try to, lower the expenses to the best of your ability. Now,
Right.
Allie is the one that taught me how to look at things and renegotiate those opportunities. So do you want to speak about the renegotiation
I do.
opportunities?
And, Gus and I just did a podcast on the other podcast, similar-ish when it came to like budgeting and all that other stuff. And, the gurus of business always tell you not to worry about the pennies, but to make more of the dollars. And I understand that concept. But sometimes as we live the high life, and by the way, I've done this, where I was saying, like, one of the members, I won't even mention the name, but anyway, another karate guy, he had like 15 locations during COVID. He had to negotiate down and he ended up with 7 and they're doing well. But I said, you know what? I've had 6 locations in Long Island, 4 out of the country. And when I was like that, I was growing and buying and making a ton of money, buying buildings, paying people exorbitant salaries. I wish I could go back in time and just renegotiate how I acted, because I would have been less likely to give things away, spend money freely, take my staff to a Christmas party that cost me $8,000 for the night. Not that I wouldn't celebrate with them, but I would be less likely to give things away because I was living high on the money and the income. So I would have been more frugal and more understanding of cash and billing. So it's very simple. So anyway, on this podcast, Gus and I were kind of talking about it, and we had like differences of opinions because he comes from that young mindset. Don't worry about the pennies, earn the dollars. But imagine if you worried about the pennies while earning the dollars, you'd have way more dollars in your pocket than you would the other way, right? Because you're just saying, hey, I'm making the money, so I'll spend it. Well, what if you didn't have to spend all that money and you still could make the money? Now you just put another 20% into your checkbook or your cash account or whatever. So when you brought it up, you could look at every single bill. And by the way, I still do this. I do this on a quarterly basis, if not every 3 months. And I look at my bills. I just had money that in the bank making like just a regular savings account, like 0.001%. Like I literally got sick to my stomach every time they put an interest check of 25 cents in my bank account. So I'm like, how can I turn that money And I'm not going to invest it because I just invested like 50 grand and lost like 8 grand because the economy is like boom. So I'm like, that pisses me off. So I'm like, my wife's like, don't worry, it'll come back. I'm like, yeah, but I lost 8. You know how hard I had to work for 8 grand? I would have rather that it stayed with 50 with no, zero interest rather than lost money. Like they just stole my money, or I stole it myself. So anyway, long story short, I took my money and I said, how can I take this money and turn it into other money? So I basically looked at my bills. One, I had my building, which I owed money on. And then my car payment. And I'm saying, like, how much do I pay in interest? So the one loan on my building I'm paying, and you and I asked your opinion on this. I owed like, interest every month of about like $1,000 to $1,100 a month that was just being gobbled up by the greedy banks. So I'm like, what if I just took my money that's making no money in my bank account and put it and paid off the building? Now, instead of paying $1,000 to the bank, I'm paying myself $1,000 every month profit. Right. So I looked at that and I paid off my Tesla. I paid off my building. And now I'm like, by the way, it also reduced my overhead. So God forbid I ever had a shutdown like COVID, I'd have this much of an overhead versus that much of an overhead that I'd have to find money for. So it made my life a lot simpler, and I was able to renegotiate finances. So when you do that, look at your cable bill, look at your, all the things that you buy, look at where you're spending your money, look at your copy machine, your ink charges, look at whatever your supplies are, and be smart enough to take a few hours out of the month to find cheaper venues, better prices. Sometimes we get caught up and we buy from so-and-so martial arts supply. We don't realize they're charging us 25% more than the other martial arts supply. No reason why you should have loyalty to someone who's charging you more. Go with the cheaper supply company that has the same quality, right? And renegotiate your debt, because that renegotiation, even if it's 10%, is 10% in your pocket. You could put that towards a college fund. You could pay down more debt. You could buy something. Heck.
Well, in this case right now, save.
Yeah.
And have cash flow.
Right. Paying down debt, though, is very similar, right? Like, so like if you have a
depends on the interest,
right? That's true.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So let's say like my daughter, she had a credit card that started off at 0% interest, and now she's had it for 2 years and it's 19% interest. She's smart. She doesn't use too much of it. But I'm like, Kiara, just get a new card, cancel that credit card. And now she's like, well, I could do that. I'm like, of course, kid. Will go boom. She right away, like they immediately approved her and gave her 0% interest for 18 months. I'm like, cancel the other card. That's fine. And now she's not paying any interest on the card. I'm like, there's so many things that we tend to ignore.
Just be aware, though, that when you cancel a credit card, that does put a little ding on your credit score.
I think so. I think that, by the way, that's a great topic. I think the whole credit score sham, FICA, all that stuff, it's such a gimmick. Like I just paid off my building and my Tesla and my credit score went down, right? Because I don't have debt anymore. So it doesn't look like I have debt. So wouldn't the credit score soar, in my opinion? But no, they lowered it. It's just ridiculous. But so yeah, anyway, overhead reduction. But you know what's more important, Twain, is knowing your true overhead. Like, where's your money going every month? To the penny, you should know. Or at least with like a 4% like leeway for what you're not sure of. You went out to dinner, you had Uber Eats deliver food, but you should know your expenses. So like when COVID hit, I know exactly what I had to make every month. And I'm calculating, okay, I could survive for a year and a half if I had no income, or with this income, half of what I was making, I could survive for 2.5 years. Who knows how long it was going to go on.
Sure.
Right. So, I mean, because I know my expenses. So my wife gets mad at me because I'm always looking at our checking account. She handles her own. And she's like, you got to watch everything I buy and where I bought it and where it went. I go, I'm just doing budgeting. That's all. I'm not questioning your spending. You could still keep on spending. I'm just want to know where the money's going. So I know. Right.
Yeah. And I would also throw this in to talk to your landlord and see if you can renegotiate for a period of time, even. Because we did that back in 2008, and that saved me a ton of money. That was the best advice that I got. I got that from you, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So Yeah, it was. That was the best.
Hey,
It saved me
hey,
thousands of dollars.
the building that I just paid off, I called up and I said, I'd like to do a deferment so I don't have to pay. And they said, oh, I think there's an SBA grant that will pay your mortgage for you. So I said, well, what the hell do I need to do to get that to happen? And they said, nothing. I'll just submit it. A click of a button, because it's a government agency. They paid my mortgage. They paid it. And it's not like they deferred it and put it on the back end, because my home mortgage did that. And I ended up screwing myself because I could have paid it, but I didn't. But anyway, the business mortgage, they literally paid every single month for 14 months. And that was like, the payment came off of my principal. So it was a legitimate payment. So when I had to start paying again, my mortgage was paid down by like 14 grand. And I didn't have to pay. And I had that money freed up just in case I needed to use it. So there's so many times I think we should all, this is one, and we could kind of move on to ideas on how to make more money and other things. But I think everyone needs to, number one, get a grip of what their finances are, what their expenses are, what they're paying out every month, and then how much you're making every month. And then once you know that to the penny or close within 5% or so, then you could say, okay, this month I made an actual 5 grand, 8 grand, 10 grand. I'm going to put that money away in my savings, for a rainy day kind of concept, right? And sometimes people run their businesses and they don't know. That's why, like, when COVID hit, people were like, I didn't realize I was like floating on the line of going out of business every single month. Like, what the hell do I do? That kind of thing.
The other thing too, to help with cash flow, is this was Lance Trippett who had told us about it. But I've switched. Everybody knew, and I started this last year. Now, old people, they still are at the old way, but I actually do weekly billing.
Right. You told me that. So, that's great. That's great.
Oh my gosh. You actually make more money in the end. It's a lot easier to get someone to pay you $39 that's behind that week,
right,
than it is $169 when they're behind for the whole month.
Right.
And the other thing is, it definitely helps with cash flow. And then we know right away that there's a problem, right? I don't have to wait a full month to figure out that there's a problem. Mm-hmm. I know right away in 1 week that there's an opportunity that needs to be solved. And so to me, that was a game changer to have weekly billing.
You add on 2.5%, right? 2.5,
I think.
Which is crazy. If you think about it, it's almost like if I said, hey, Dwayne, give me 100 grand and, I'll give you 2.4% interest on that. You'd go, okay, like, what's the gimmick? Like, you already have people paying. It's just a matter of minds. And by the way, I haven't pulled the trigger on it but I've been debating on doing what you're doing. But at the same time, it's like almost like they're just paying every week. And really you end up getting 2.4 payments more per year based on the calendar versus the way you do it monthly, which is 12 versus 52, right?
Yeah. And then just real quickly, because I know somebody's going to ask this question, we just pre-frame them and let them know that the price of the program is $2,028 per year, but to make it more budgetable, right?
Yeah.
We just do it weekly. And yes, there are some weeks that we're closed, but those are all factored in to the total price for the year. We just make it more convenient to do weekly billing.
I love it. Yeah, so let's stay on this vein, because we could talk gloom and doom all the time. And, gas prices are high, And by the way, can I throw in a little political statement? It's like, how do we take billions of dollars from our economy?
Let me mute you.
And shift it and send it to another economy of a country? It doesn't matter who the country is and how in need they are, when we are struggling here. Mm-hmm. Like, it just never made sense to me at how government can sell that to the American people. Like, I've never understood. And that's what I kind of like. I hate to say this about, Trump. It was America first, like he wanted to focus on America. I wish every president in the world that we've ever had would do that. Focus on the US first. So we wouldn't be like, if they injected that 40 billion or 400 million back into our economy, I'm sure people would be able to afford higher gas prices, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, we could pay down our deficit. I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, that's true too. But where that lies now, we'll kind of use that as a stepping stone to the next comment. Um, when you're focusing on budget and you're focusing on saving money, that the gurus tell you make more money. So there are a lot of things that we could be doing, and we should throw out a whole bunch of ideas of that people could be doing through the slow times during summer to add on extra income. And I think you're doing it. I'm doing it. We're going to have an inter-school tournament, right? You're going to do a tournament. And we're like, okay, let's just say it's an inter-school tournament just among my students. And I charge, I don't know, $55, right? So $55. And I get, like, let's just say out of my enrollment, I get a mere 60 people to sign up. So 55 times 60, I'm making $3,300 on a one-day event that's exciting, motivational, fun, and educational for the kids. And then the parents get to see their kids in action. So that's even more positive because it builds up retention because they see what they're doing, and we're making money.
And you're making a little bit more because you're doing ticket sales. Not
right.
It's not expensive, but you're still
I charge 55, and then I include the first spectator ticket. So every parent after that or relative goes, they're going to pay a fee. So let's say you make $4 or $5 grand. That's a lot of money for an event that you put time and effort into, and you have the side benefits of all the things that you're doing that are really good.
Yes.
Right. And by the way, that could be a parents' night out. I have one of my clients is doing nunchuck night, and we found nunchucks. Asian World of Martial Arts has got a whole new nunchuck collection. They're like foam nunchucks are like $4. So we're going to be he's going to be doing that. It's $39 to do the night. It's 2.5 hours, including pizza, and they get a pair of nunchucks that the retail value is like $19 on. So in essence, $40 to do it. $20 is nunchucks, so they're only charging 20, and they get pizza and in 2 hours of time, and you sell that to your students, and the parents get to go out to dinner, have a good time, whatever they want to do on their private time while we're babysitting the kids.
Yeah.
So what could we be doing? And all of us that are listening, school owners, have heard this a million times, Nerf wars, nunchuck wars, stick wars, seminars, specialty classes, movie nights. The list goes on and on and on and on. That's something that you could be doing to build up your income during the so-called recession. How do we make money even during tough times to keep our school going?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would selfishly throw in health coaching, because that's been not just for me, but for some of coach partners, that I'm with. They are martial arts school owners too, and they're bringing in, a good chunk of change to supplement, or even in some cases, hopefully surpass what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
So to me, that's a win-win-win, because we are in the fitness industry, even though sometimes we may not believe that we're categorized like that.
Right.
And there's a whole market that we're missing.
Yeah.
Because how many school owners have 90% kids and only 10% adults? Well, that the other 90% that are out there that are kids, there's probably 85% of those that the parents aren't going to do martial arts, but they need to lose weight, get in shape, be healthy.
Yeah.
So there's a market that we're missing with that, I believe. That was one of the reasons why I even took it on, was because I saw that that's a market that I was not even taking in consideration. And so therefore it was such an easy marry to my program, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And what's interesting too is that, there's that word, health coaching is like something that will make the parents feel better about themselves. It ties them to the martial arts because you're doing the coaching and you're helping them expand have a better life. And the kids, then you could tie it into healthy eating habits at home. Like I had a kid, I love the kid, and he's quitting brown belt, second stripe, one more stripe, and he'd be able to be up for black belt. Hasn't trained, hurt himself at another sport. and missed classes, the typical decline in attendance versus motivation, and all of a sudden they're out. So I'm talking to the parent the other day, and he's like, yeah, I'm trying to motivate him to go, but like right now he's sitting on the couch playing a video game and he doesn't want to do anything. And I'm like, you gotta step up and motivate that kid. By the way, let me tell you, he's 10 years old.
Gosh.
He's about my height and he weighs about 280 pounds. The kid can't even roll and stand up without it being like a major struggle. Like, I would think that should be illegal, in my opinion, to allow a kid to get like that, let alone both of the parents are overweight and out of shape as well. So it's part of their lifestyle. So you're changing that entire paradigm, and you're changing that whole, you're not getting just a parent healthy, but you're getting the entire family health, because one person's eating habits work into the others. And hopefully there's a whole holistic lifestyle change.
I finally, I don't want to say talked into, but finally my program director got on.
Oh, good.
Program. And she's down like almost 40 pounds now in 2.5 months. And of course, she's in front of everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone's asking her.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's been quite beneficial. Let's just put it that way.
Best marketing program you could ever have, right?
Mm-hmm.
So back to, people who are listening now or in the future, we're looking at, number one, you could reduce expenses. Number two, you could start to expand your imagination. And Dwayne and I call it printing money. You're not technically printing money, but you have the ability as an owner to come up with a concept, any concept, and sell it to your clientele. And then if they buy, you've printed money in essence, right? So I've done some crazy things, but like, whatever you do, like my one guy did, which ended up getting one of the kids hurt, but they did because I have an outside playground area. So you remember when you were young, you played manhunt, you had a flashlight and everyone ran around in dark clothing and hid and you had to find each other. One of my kids ran into a pole and got a concussion. She's, a young teenager. That was the downside. But at the same time, they did manhunt night and people were on it, like 25 people on it, like immediately. Things that parents saw as a cool thing for their kids to experience, because when they were younger, they used to do that. Like, so what is your thought? Like, what could you come up with? What kind of program, what kind of seminar, what kind of special night out, what kind of parents' night out that could you come up with that people would be like, I want to do that? And then you inject cash into your school and save money of that cash towards a rainy day or to pay down debt, so you have lower overhead, et cetera, et cetera. So I urge the listeners to start thinking back, like, how many times a year should they do parents' night outs? How many times a year should they do some specialty seminars with guest instructors or guests, theme topic, weapons, self-defense, whatever it may be, carjacking, that kind of stuff, how to get out of those things. I know the big thing, one of my friends just did, what do they call it? Like when active shooter classes, right? So what do you do if that happens? So, interesting stuff, but I think that this is super important that we start thinking out of the box, not thinking with a limited mindset, but a mindset of abundance. And our good friend Gus Lopez just said, hey guys, he's down in Miami right now, vacationing.
Oh, be careful down there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he's having a good time.
Well, and that, gives a great segue to Gus Lopez and Lead Hunter Media, because that's who we use, right, to get all of our Facebook leads in. And so even in a recession, you don't want to stop advertising. You still need to continue to advertise, especially during these times. Yeah. Because primarily your competition is going to have, in most cases, are going to have the scarcity mindset that Allie spoke about. And so making sure that, one, you don't have that scarcity mindset, you have an abundance mindset, and two, follow through with that abundance mindset and still do those advertising things that are going to bring in individuals. Another opportunity, is you got Father's Day this week. Yeah. If you're not doing some sort of Father's Day workout, giving some sort of Father's Day offer or opportunity, I think you're missing the boat on that. And by the way, if you're going to do it now, it's a little late because it's this, today is Wednesday, but I'm doing a Father's Day training every year.
And by the way, with COVID, we couldn't do it, but I did last year. We did Father's Day. We missed Mother's Day. This year we did Mother's Day and Father's Day. And I have about 27 fathers coming in. I don't charge for it. I actually give them a free t-shirt. We have this cool Ninja Dad t-shirt. And we had a Ninja Mom t-shirt, and I pay for the t-shirts. They end up costing me like $6 or $7. I think my bill was like for Father's Day was like $350 out of my pocket. And I bought extras. So every dad, hey, what, you didn't come to Father's Day? Yeah, I know. Don't worry about it. What size are you? Oh no, I didn't earn it. Here you go. Bam. I throw them the shirt. And now they're all wearing, like a mom came in the other day. She had the mom Ninja Mom shirt on just during a regular work week. And I'm loving it. Like that's my school out there represented. So I do a 1 hour workout, whatever classes. Saturdays, I have 2 classes. So I'll do, the younger kids, the older kids, they bring their dads. We train. I teach the dads how to drill their kids, how to hold a pad, what to say, whole bunch of different segments they could practice. And they all get a t-shirt. And by the way, I don't charge for that, but just think about it. The parents and the kids are bonding. A dad gets to be with his kids. Sometimes dads don't get to be with their kids, right?
Right.
And then, and they get the shirt. They feel good about it. They wear it around town. It's a win-win. And by the way, it might not make you money, but it's definitely a retention tool and a good way for you to speak to them while they're there and get in their head. And then you offer them the free month. I did get one mom who's trying a free month, only one out of 27. That's trying a free month, but it's a mom that's been with my school for 5 years. So she's now going to come in and try it. I hope to get 1 or 2 dads, but I love the retention aspect, the fun of it and what it does to bond them to our program.
And goodwill, right? I mean, It's goodwill.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. So another thing that we should be thinking of, right? So with the advent of Facebook marketing, Google AdWords, it made school owners and business owners at the click of a button, let's hire Gus Lopez. He'll get it all done for us, right? And now we remove ourselves from that marketing equation because there's money or leads coming in that turn into students. And we really don't have to do anything other than pay someone. But we forgot that there's guerrilla marketing 101 with, I forget his name. J. Conrad Levinson wrote the book. Those guerrilla marketing tactics are still applicable today. So why did we stop, or why aren't we continuing forward with all the typical things? And by the way, maybe they don't, they take work, but they bring in 2 leads. One thing is, brings in 2 leads. We do a fair, a street fair, brings in 2 leads. We do a movie theater table during one of the popular weekends, and we give out passes and they spin the wheel. You get, Stephen Oliver said some of his schools are getting 300 leads and they're signing up 30 people into a $300 a month program. Yeah. That's crazy money, right? But why? The question to the school owners, why are we not doing that? Or and if you haven't stopped, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to all the other people that have stopped, including myself. I used to have lead boxes. I used to have rack cards. I used to be out meeting restaurants and schools and other places. I've kind of chilled because my Facebook marketing brings in a ton of leads, but I should be bringing in a ton more if I was doing those things. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, and we talked about this on a different podcast before, that because of the digital age, we've gotten lazy and we're not implementing. I'm guilty of that.
Right.
We're not implementing. Like, I don't even have a buddy pass. You know what I didn't do this year?
What?
I didn't do Valentine cards.
Right. And by the way,
I haven't done them since COVID. How crazy is that, right?
My company prints those in case anyone needs Halloween cards, Christmas cards, Valentine's, St. Patrick's Day. We do all those.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, though. Like, why? So what happened between you and I? What did we do? Like, what happened?
I got lazy.
Facebook
was working so well.
But is it lazy, or do we get complacent maybe a little? Like, I don't know, or we get caught up in the day-to-day and we forget, yeah, you're right. We didn't have Facebook, so we had to kill those hard, the guerrilla marketing. That was our stuff, run an ad in the paper, run an ad in the yellow pages, the phone book, do this, do that. That's where we were getting, there were no sources. Like, we never had an outlet that would be like, hey, digital, boom, in someone's face, click the link, immediate, they respond and sign up for a class. Now we have that. We've gotten a little bit too comfortable. Let's just pretend like tomorrow that got outlawed and now they're not allowed to advertise on social media. We'd have to go back to that. My suggestion to people is like, don't get comfortable and get out there and do this. I started email marketing. I started doing my Google AdWords up again. I do my Facebook ads, and I've been doing all this other stuff. Like, I'll tell you, like, just to give you a rough idea, like, I thought email marketing was kind of dead. Like, we had on Gus and I's podcast, we had this guy named and he's an email marketer. And I'm like listening to him. And as I'm doing the podcast, I'm making my first email. Before he was done with the podcast, I sent out my first email. And I'm like, I've been doing it at least every day, 5 days a week for the last 3.5 weeks. So let me tell you some of the stats on this, because I thought it was dead. Like, what? I waste my time. The first email I sent out was like on 5/24. I sent out 538 emails, had 201 people open the email. 13 people were 13 bounces with bad emails. And I got 4 clicks, 7.74%. I then sent out another email, and of course, subject line is interesting. Whatever you write in your subject line. So I wrote a subject line. I am so disappointed that we're all so selfish. Read this to see why it's a good thing. That was a long heading, right? I got 551 sent. 551 went out. 211 people opened that one, and I got a 8% click-through rate on my, and I offer my free month for share it with a friend and so on. And I've been doing them. And now I said to myself, man, I'm going to go back and email everybody in my database, old students, people who quit, people who tried 4 years, 5 years ago, whatever it is. So I just sent out 1,000 emails the other day, and I got a 14% click through, and I got almost 400 opens. And the summer, it's the ad, the subject is, do your kids get smarter over the summer? Read my tips to smarter kids during summer breaks. So I don't know how many of them are coming into my funnel and signing up for a class, but I do know 1 or 2 of them have. And they said, oh, I haven't heard from you in a while. I'm happy that you got in touch with me.
Let me ask you this, though. You're actually, and I know you are, so I should say this, not ask you this. You are actually giving them good content.
Right.
It's not a ploy to open up the email with that heading.
Right.
So you're actually giving them some actionable things that they can use. So what you are doing is you are placing yourself as the expert, a person of interest.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is absolutely important that you are doing that.
And this also goes to my existing clientele that are training with me. So, they're also, like, I have a girl, she's a young 24-year-old girl who's a really great student. She reads every article, and she always sends me an email back and says, I really learned a lot from that article. I love being part of your dojo. That was really interesting about the culture, Japan, the history. So these things that we do all have little type of effects. It's like the movie with Ashton Kutcher, The Butterfly Effect, right? Like every little thing that he would change would monumentally change the future. So it's about how we are, doing what we're doing. So again, back to what I was saying, you need to do it all. You shouldn't be lazy. I have a few people that I coach, and they're like, oh my God, that means I'm going to have to write an email a day. And I'm like, yeah, it's part of work, dude. Like, that's
even if you do it once a week, like even just start there.
Yeah, exactly. You could always start smaller but just do something, right? Like, get out there, build the funnel so that it's automated and it does it on its own, build the order. The great thing about our sponsor Spark and our software company is that they have everything in there you need to run a school and to market the school and follow up on your students, and automations that go out without even us having to press a button. If they hit the 1 month mark, you could set it up that all of a sudden they get this series of emails. If they, get a white belt, they get this series of emails. And there's so many things you could do that would have taken, by the way, you and I used to have a thing called Entreport, another company, and it was expensive. Like for the cost, it was like 3 times the cost of what we pay for Spark. And it only did one thing, which is the automation. Spark has automations included. so you could do it. And, and the last thing I mean, is that good on that section? Should I move
No,
on?
I think you're good.
So the last thing I think people need to learn to do is prioritize their time as far as what's valuable. It's like the Stephen Covey video with the woman executive, and it's called Big Rocks. And he's got two bowls and one bowl filled with these little sand gravel pellets. And he's got all these big rocks in various sizes and colors with names on it, like sitting on the table. He says, you got to get as many of these important things into this bowl with those pebbles. It's worth watching. Big Rocks. Just go on YouTube and find the one with the girl in the red business suit. But it's about prioritizing the important things. So many of us are so busy on a day-to-day basis. And by the way, I think maybe you're probably better at it than I am, that I get caught up in the rabbit holes, going down, watching guitar lesson videos on YouTube, or, hey, that was a cool thing. I saw it. Let me go check out the trailer for the new Will Smith movie or whatever. And now I'm watching trailer after trailer after trailer, trying to work, but focus on that. So we have to really prioritize our tasks in the order of importance of us moving forward and getting better, right? In other words, so we could clean the bathroom, which is important, or we could market to our clients and just email a few of the clients and say, hey, are you kind of coming to summer camp? That kind of thing. It's about organizing your time in a way. And all of this buckles and boils down to us making a better living and having a more straight school. And now we worry less about the economy because we're building on what we have.
Yeah, agreed. So I think we've covered pretty much everything.
Yeah.
I really do. Just to kind of recap, yes, we can slash our expenses. We can negotiate, renegotiate. You didn't say this, but I know you've taught this. Is actually go through and you can get rid of some services that you really aren't using.
Yeah.
That you're still paying for, that you go, oh crap, I've been paying $19.99 for the last year and I haven't even used this, because how many times have you done that, right?
Yeah.
So I think going through, and I don't believe that is a scarcity mindset unless you dwell on those things. So go and do an inventory, negotiate what you can negotiate, cut out what you can cut out, and then start looking at opportunities of abundance and how you can add more revenue. And I don't necessarily mean revenue financially, although that's important and you should do that. But there is goodwill revenue. There's the relationship revenue. There is obviously the financial revenue. So you want to come up with all of those opportunities for yourself. And remember, through all of this, this is my opinion, I think you agree with me, don't cut your advertising budget. Try to make sure that's the last thing that you do.
Yeah.
Don't cut your advertising budget. And I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but I would say, one of the things that we should all be doing is paying ourselves first.
Right.
Right.
You want to explain that a little, that concept?
Well, when we don't pay ourselves first, we have a tendency to pay ourselves last, just because, we got to pay the IRS, we've got to pay our employees, we've got to pay the electric bill and all those things. The problem is, if we're not surviving, all those other things are going to get paid anyways.
Right.
And so that also puts you first. There's a mind shift there that really is an abundance mindset, as opposed to a poor mindset or a lack, meaning, well, I'll take the leftovers. No, right. We get the first, and then obviously for me, with my faith, God actually gets the first. I pay God first because I give money, and then I pay myself. But it's still from the concept of paying myself first.
So tell me a little bit. So I'm thinking with, we have about 11 minutes left. So quickly, if we could go over this. So okay, I'm a new school. I'm only making $1,000 a month total off of all my students. My overhead is $1,200 a month. How do I pay myself first? Like, what explain to people like the concept of that in it, because they might be going, hey, how can I pay myself? I'm not even making money.
Well, in that aspect, you can't. I mean,
Right.
you just can't pay yourself first. But you really do need to, when you actually start making money, come up with a budget that you are going to pay yourself first. So even if
Yeah.
that's $1, every dollar, or at the end of every week, you're going to pay yourself $1 before you go and pay everything else. Yes, your expenses have to be covered. No, you
Right.
can't give yourself a salary, a weekly salary of $500 when your weekly expenses are
$1,000.
yeah, exactly. So that's a
Yeah.
given. Hopefully
So,
that's a given. But just the concept of, paying yourself first is I think it's actually the easiest way to then start to create the budget for your school.
right.
And your percentages can rise as time goes on based
Right.
upon the amount of money that you are making.
Mm-hmm.
And then, for me, the easiest way to pay yourself first is to, make it automatic.
Yeah. And that's important. And by the way, I think that once you are making money enough to be able to pay yourself, and then you start paying yourself, like, hey, listen, every month I better churn this amount of money so that I could pay myself first. Like, I have to work hard to make this in order to take out that. It gives you a better goal and a better perspective on what you need to push for. Because so many people wait for things to happen to them versus manipulating or motivating a situation to be in their advantage.
Well, and I like what you said, because it creates the goal that you
Right.
need.
Right.
So by understanding what you want to make, the percentage of what that is, that gives you the goal that you need to hit every single month.
Yeah.
The other thing too we haven't brought up, which I don't know why I didn't think about this until just now, because I just had a meeting with my accountant yesterday, is if you do not have a good accountant, you need to get a good accountant.
Oh, so important.
When I switched over to this accountant, I can't tell you how many years ago it was, they saved me thousands of dollars in my first year alone, not to mention subsequent years, based upon things that I didn't know. And the accountant that I had prior, either one wasn't willing to do those things or didn't know themselves.
Right.
And so I would talk with some of your friends that have more money than you.
Yeah.
I'm not talking to just martial artists.
But no, that's important.
Yeah. Having a good accountant and making sure that your business is whatever corporation it should be in order to give you the best benefits for you and your family and your situation as well. Leaps and bounds will save you.
Yeah, and I can't tell you, and I've lost thousands upon thousands of dollars, probably in the 100,000 plus range, by having bad accountants. They didn't file the form. I paid for a penalty. I paid a tax that I shouldn't have, and interest, and so on. So take the time, and to add to Dwayne's thing, a good accountant means a small business accountant, or that works with small businesses and knows what a small business should do. Like, sometimes accountants are nothing more than number writers and form filers. They don't really know. Like, I meet with my clients and their accountants sometimes, and I'll say, hey, how come so-and-so, how come Dwayne's not writing off his cell phone? Oh, he could if he wanted. Well, shouldn't, like, it's not the accountant's job unless you pay them, and that's their job, is to help refer, recommend, and tell you the things that you should be doing to get the best tax benefit. They're going to think and assume that you know, and they're going to file your papers accordingly. So you should read, like, one book by Rob Kiyosaki, I think it's called Tax Loopholes, or Loopholes of the Rich and Famous, or something like that. And that's exactly the reason why Trump never wanted to show his taxes, because he was using every available legal write-off that he could to the hilt. Most general people would go, look, he's making millions. Why shouldn't he pay taxes? Well, legally, he's not supposed to, because he's doing what he's supposed to. That's the government rule. We, small businesses, could take advantage of that as well if we know what we're doing.
I was going to say one little caveat to that is, yes, you want somebody that works with small businesses, but I would say small to medium size, just because then they can show you how to grow. Like, they can give you, and then like last year, back in October, I think it was, my accountant called me and she said, hey, I don't remember if I think it was payroll or
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was, but she said, if we pay $5,000 right now,
Right.
you're going to be able to deduct that and then save $1,000 on your taxes this year with XYZ. And so in essence, she said, that money's going to have to be spent anyways, but if we do it now, you're going to save $1,000.
Awesome.
And I go, yep. All right, do it. Just,
Yeah.
so she did it. It was electronically taken out. But I would have never known that
Right.
was an opportunity. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. Like I when I wanted to pay my building off and my car, I called my accountant. I said, does this make sense? And he said, yeah, you're saving money. It makes sense. I said, but am I going to have a tax liability from it? He said, no, quite the opposite, because you're taking your personal money and paying down a business loan. So now the business has to pay you back, and it's not profit, it's a loan payback. So I got that deduction on that, and I paid off and saved all that money on interest. But I ran it by my accountant first, because you never know, like, hey, you got to pay this, you got to do that, so there's a penalty on early payment, whatever it may be. So it really helped me save a lot of money. And that's where you need someone or a business. I often run it by my friend who's worth millions. And I'll say, hey, what if I did this? He goes, yeah, that's a smart idea. That's a great, and how about this? And things that he does, I'm like, wow, I didn't know I could do that. Yeah, you can, that. So knowing people, like-minded people, and asking questions is a big thing.
Yes. And I don't think talking money is taboo. So,
right.
Because if you can't talk about money, then you can't grow it.
Right.
So,
absolutely, dude.
Just before we close, to kind of segue onto that, there's the three most important people that you need in your life. We already said one is your accountant. You need a phenomenal lawyer, and then you need a great physician. I mean, you really do. So.
And probably should be in the opposite order: physician, like doctor, to health first, right? Right, and then
agreed, but
accountant, and the lawyer, God forbid you ever need him, he's there for you, right?
Yeah.
So
hopefully, hopefully we have done our due diligence to help our listeners with regards to the fact that we are in a recession. Mm-hmm. It's not that we've entered into it. I really think that, and I can't know for sure, right? But I would definitely say that this is going to go through and into 2023, maybe all the way to the end of 2023. Right. But it's at least going to go to the middle of 2023, where we're going to see some constraints similar in fashion to 2008, and hopefully not worse.
I agree with you 1,000%. And just remember, be imaginative enough to print your own money and make up the difference. So you're not worried. Listen, it's important. You're paying $100 for a full tank of gas when you paid $50. But if you're making money that you weren't expecting in other areas, it certainly eases the pain on the overhead and the expense. When you're running on a thin line, you're running on vapors, right? You're going to be feeling the crunch and have to either, cut back dramatically and not live the lifestyle that you enjoy, or you could come up with ideas to make more money to make up for that, like, the side hustle or whatever it may be.
Yeah. And I just a selfish look, I shouldn't even say selfish plug, but I would love to help other school owners add health coaching into their school and make some extra revenue in doing it. So if you're interested, you just go to addhealthcoaching.com and you can get information there. We can set up a call. Addhealthcoaching.com.
ADD. How do you spell it? AD Health Coaching or
add. So to add health coaching. Yeah, so okay.
ADD. Got it. So people know what to type in. That's awesome.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had ADD. No,
yeah. Like, what did you just say? All right, good, man. Great call as always. Looking forward to it every week. Thank you, Dwayne, for sharing. I hope the listeners enjoyed it. Please give us feedback, other topics that you may want to talk about, or if you want to be a guest on our show and you have a specific area of expertise, inbox me, message me on Facebook. And we'd love to work with people. And if you're a sponsor and you want to sponsor our podcast, we can put you on our header, have you in the intro and the outro, and we'd love to help promote your business as well.
All right. Thanks, Allie. Have a great day, sir.
You, Dwayne. Talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Martial Arts School Owner Talk podcast. This would not be possible if it weren't for the support of our amazing sponsors. Please check out Elite Insights for all your website needs. LeadHunterMedia.com, your online digital marketer and content provider. Academy Kings BJJ Growth Consulting and Management Group at GrowMyAcademy.com. SparkMembership.com, hands down the best martial arts software for school owner management on the planet. GetKarateStudents.com, a martial arts growth consulting company for all your systems. AddHealthCoaching.com, helping school owners create a whole nother revenue stream for their school. We will see you next time.